Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Sorry about that, for some reason my mic got disabled. I am Abe with Mystic Genmara, a small town mystic in the middle of Idaho. And tonight we are going to do our my continuing series, tarot reading as soon as you see them. So, the mythological nightmare, so to speak, is history. To say it or comment or whatever else, there are human title of Minotaur itself is unique. So what is this thing? Breaking down... Is YouTube dropping images again? All get out for me, so... Maybe a YouTube... We will have to do something else tonight. Well, let's see if that did anything. I had to reset some stuff. If not, we'll figure this out later, I guess. Anyway, back to Greece. So, what is the Minotaur? That's where we were headed. Breaking down the word, it's Minos bull. Minos's bull, sorry. Minos was the new ruler of the island of Crete. He was in competition with his brother for the rulership. So Minos prayed to the sea god Poseidon to basically give him a little extra support from the people so that he would get the throne. Poseidon did hear Minos's plea and sent a great snow-white bull, and that's how it's described, a symbol of purity and strength. Minos was supposed to sacrifice said bull. Let's just say that's not what he did. And can you blame him though? It's a gigantic snow-white bull. It's beautiful. Why would you want to get rid of it? That would be quite the prize. The problem is he kind of defied, you know, a god, and the Greek gods didn't really cater too well to that. So instead of sacrificing like he was supposed to, he sacrificed another bull, but kept that pure snow-white one because, you know, why not? Going along with the Greek gods' history of, you know, not being the nicest people and all the time, how do you think Poseidon responded? Not the greatest. He decided to punish little Minos. Well, kind of asked for it. But you can say that Poseidon was creative in his punishments. The sea god cursed Minos' wife, Pasiphae, sorry, I practiced that a lot, still messing it up, to fall in love with the bull. You heard me correctly. Poseidon cursed the wife to be in love with the bull. I just have the word yikes to say. Well, the newly in love couple consummated their relationship. I'm going to let you put two and two together on that. I'm not going to say it out loud. And the disturbing details, which we'll be vague with, are as followed. She asked Daedalus, at the urging of, let me start that over. Pasiphae, good grief, her name, asked Daedalus to build a hollow female version of a wooden cow. And once it was complete, she dove right in, and bang, bang, boom, a little baby boy was born. Great magic at play here, and yeah, the more I researched this, the more horrifying the images became, so we will skip those. But real talk, and the ladies that are in the audience who've born children, you'll be able to understand this a little bit more than the rest of us, but just, we're going to go down a little image of nightmares here. Can you imagine, with normal labor being what it is, pretty intense, a lot of bodily contractions, things are moving around, can you imagine popping out a bull's baby? I mean, I don't know how many of you have been around cows, they're not small. A bull can weigh 2,500 pounds or more, depending on the breed, so something to think about. An average calf weighs between 65 and 90 pounds at birth. Falls out of the mom, those are your weights. Those are massive. Whereas the average human baby, worldwide human average, is 7.5 pounds. Think about this. Even if it was half and half, that's a 35-pound baby. Even people who drop out quintuplets or octuplets, not 35 pounds of baby at one time. That's just a nightmare to think about. Like, yeah, put yourself in her shoes. I'd rather not, honestly. Anywho, either way, the horror that was birthed actually lived, and it's referenced that they didn't think it would. Some thought they hoped it wouldn't because it was at birth a nightmare. And we're going to call it the mother, because I'm not going to try to say her name again, named it Asterius. Why would you name... Okay. Anyway, and horror it was. She tried the nursing thing, but it wasn't really being nourished by milk, and it became very hostile. But it was nourished as a baby by human blood, then into human flesh. I don't want to know how they found that out. I'm not really interested in learning that. And most of the legends that I was digging through didn't reference how they figured out what his food choice was. But that's what he was after. So Asterius, the Minotaur, grew into the body of a man. So neck. The primary original legend, the oldest one I could find, the neck down was a man. Very burly, very masculine, full of hair. Like, you think people are hirsute? Yeah, this guy made it work. It was like borderline werewolf level. But he had the head and tail of a bull. Horns, ears, long face, and then a tail. There are some later descriptions that I don't quite buy, just because they're blurring myths here, that describe the waist down being a bull, the waist up being a man. That's not the story. You're talking about the bull version of Pan, the satyr. Not the same thing by any stretch. The nightmare was hard to control and a huge embarrassment to Minos. I can't even imagine. Minos, after consulting the Oracle of Delphi, because why? That's what you do, especially in Greece. I don't know what to do. You go track down the Oracle, because Oracle has a direct line to, Apollo or any of the other gods. And after that, Minos commissioned Daedalus, the one who built the bull or the cow for his wife. Of course, he would make him do the same work. Built a labyrinth near the city of Knossos. There is a couple of varying stories here. One said it was a labyrinth built above ground. The most common belief theory version was that it was built as a maze of tunnels underneath a mountain. The exact location they think they finally have found, which is interesting, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But the Minotaur was eventually imprisoned within. Later, another one of Minos' normal sons, not half bull, was killed by the Athenians. Well, let's just say that didn't go over so well, and Minos went to war, and as a way to avenge the death of his other son, Minos demanded, and this is a weird demand, very specific, 14 Athenian youth, 7 male in their prime, 7 female who've yet to be married. So we're talking a similar age group. Between the ages of around 14 to 17 was the approximate age that I was rooting around trying to find. And those were to be sacrificed to the Minotaur. And the timing varies. Huge variances here. Some sources say it was every year. Others say it was every 7th year. And then the furthest out I could find was every 9th year. So it was a weird numbering. I don't know why we can't be these myths need to be better. Either way, the youths between around those ages were tossed into the labyrinth, and the door was sealed behind them. Gate, I think, is what the original state was. And they wandered into the darkness of the labyrinth. The Minotaur would stalk, kill, and devour each and every one of the 14 youths. One of the stories said there were some other things that he did with them. Didn't matter the gender there, but that was only one version, so whether or not that was true or not is anyone's guess. But, I mean, you're being alone in a cave for that long, who knows? Legend says, at the time of the 3rd sacrifice, and from everything I found, it was always the 3rd. So it was either 3 years in, 21 years in, or 27 years in. Take your pick. An Athenian hero and a prince, interestingly enough, named Theseus, volunteered. Knowing what would await him, he volunteered as tribute to go to the Minotaur. And what I thought was interesting is he had help from the daughter of Minos and the mother's named Ariadne. And she saw him when he was getting off the boat in Crete and fell madly in love with this handsome youth. Apparently, Theseus was known to be a lady killer. He could just glance and women would just fall passed out in pure lust type thing. And he used his charms apparently with a glance for Ariadne. So she was instantly swayed. And my personal question is, was there a sea god involved to stir things up a little bit and make such a quick and dramatic love? No one will say, and no one knows. But with her help, and how did she find out her help? She went to Daedalus again and persuaded him, they didn't say how, to reveal his secret as how he built the labyrinth and how to get out. And with that knowledge, she went to Theseus, and she gave him a ball of thread. That's the story. A ball of yarn or string, thread, something small, but it was that type. And he was able to tie it to the gate after the guards left, and then he was able to wander the labyrinth and kill the Minotaur. Now, this is where the myths get really wonky. Minotaur, half bull. Some say as tall as 8 feet tall. Big old horns, like, you would think a bull would have. Very powerful, very large, bigger than Theseus by a significant amount. The story goes that with a club he fashioned in the labyrinth, or his fists, he beat the Minotaur to extinction. That's the story. So saying that there was some divine help from Olympus going on here, because that doesn't hold water when you think of what the Minotaur was versus human. After he killed the Minotaur, he was able to lead the other Athenians out of the maze, and by doing so ended the horrific tributes that were going on. And and once he took care of the Minotaur, they literally just wound the ball of yarn back up to the gate and walked out. And they don't really say how they got out at that point, because the gates were locked and the guards left, but they were able to get out that way. So again, probably some magic involved. Greeks loved their magic. And okay, where are we at here? Sorry, I lost track. What did Ariadne, get for her help? In typical Greek tragedy fashion, guy conquers monster, guy gets girl, guy abandons girl, guy gets a throne. In that order. Theseus dumped Ariadne on the island of Naxos. Like, literally, they stopped to get some food and dumped her off. And once Theseus arrived home, he found that his father had yeeted himself off of a cliff, thinking that Theseus had been killed by the Minotaur. Funeral and coronation, the way it looked, within at least a week of each other, if not the same day. The Greek myths and the Greek tragedies are hysterical and horrifying at the same time, and that's why. Over time, there have been various meanings and interpretations of the story, of course. Some suggest the Minotaur was a star or a solar god, and the labyrinth was the journey of the soul to find the center of the maze, to discover the inner deity. Don't quite buy that one personally. It's a personal thing. The story, I'm not saying that a human bred with a bull and popped out that either, but I just don't quite agree with that version. Just because they found the remains of the city of Knossos, but they, of course, say they have not found any form of labyrinth or any cave structure that might be a labyrinth, fingers crossed and all. It doesn't mean that it doesn't actually exist in some form. They thought that this lost culture of Sumer didn't exist until the last 75 years or so. They thought the lost city of Troy didn't exist until the last 75 years or so. So maybe in the next 75 years, we might actually find that hidden labyrinth, which I could only imagine what that would look like. Like, nightmarish, I think, but still be cool. There is an interesting theory, though. There was a science journalist named Matt Kaplan, and I've read other stuff about him. He's not off base. I just don't quite agree with this theory. He thinks that the tectonic activity under the island of Crete would account for the bellows and wails from the caves underneath the island. Really? So they suddenly stopped at a certain point in Crete's history when the Minotaur was killed? Because they did. According to all the legends and all the myths, it stopped after Theseus went into the cave. So, what do you think? Was there at some point some hideous, monstrous creature, not so much maybe born of a human bull copulation, but of some other form of nightmarish bonding? Or was it just a story that was told to terrify young Cretan children to be good and not anger the god Poseidon? Because nobody in their right mind would want to do that, really. Poseidon was a little terrifying in his glory days. He could be an amazing ally, and that's the one thing that I've always found fascinating about him, is in his heyday, he was a beloved deity. But typical, like I said, of the Grecian gods, not one to be pissed off. So if you did something dumb and made him mad, prepare. Your end is about to occur. So with that, I'm going to try something a little bit different because of my weird spacing of things here. We are about to start, there we go, our tarot reading, and this tarot reading is, I'm using, like I said, the simple, like I did before, the simple Celtic cross spread. I read intuitively, and this one is kind of for fun. That doesn't mean you may not get something out of it, because the tarot is timeless and tends to do its own thing no matter what our initial goals are. This would be a reading for a Minotaur if he was sitting in front of me, because there was, according to Greek myths, there was only one Minotaur. And over time, let's say in the last 200 years or so, the stories have grown, the obsession or the enjoyment, and I personally say enjoyment because I used to play some of this stuff and it was a lot of fun, of like sword and sorcery games, Dungeons and Dragons, or video games that talk about Minotaur, have exploded into them not being one but multiples, like families of Minotaur. Not historically accurate, but still fun no less. I've linked some videos. Most of them, interestingly enough, are horror, because that was actually the original story of the Minotaur. It was terror. It wasn't meant to be fun or cute or anything. It was a lesson in a horror story. So I put some of those in the description, and one or two games I can't remember now, but you can check those out. Anyway, on to the tarot. The Minotaur is identified today with the Six of Chalices. So the Minotaur is in a state of observing. They're not really sure emotionally what to do. They're kind of in at an impasse. It's time to observe what's going on. They're looking at things and they're showing me actually with a friend or a partner, so maybe he's picked up a buddy along the way, but they're just kind of observing. They're not really sure how they fit into this modern day world, how the culture of the world today would accept them, or would it lock them away in another labyrinth to be beat up by some little Grecian or Athenian prince. So he's kind of just in this waiting phase at the moment. That's where he's at. It's just observing, but he has his buddy with him. He doesn't say romantic partner. They're literally just telling me it's buddy. So that's, at least he's found a friend, you know. The thing that's crossing him, so the immediate obstacle, is the Emperor. Oops. The jumping Emperor. The Emperor is the significator of a powerful male in his life. So he may still be fearing his own father, Minos, because that was his fear in life. That was like the only person really he feared was Minos, other than the gods, because everyone was scared of them. But that's the thing that's crossing him, is he has this fear of a very powerful male influence, masculine influence. It could be his father, it could be a divine, but that's what's working against him, like kind of like the fear that's crossing him at the moment. Now his higher self is the King of Swords. So he's come to the end of a cycle. It's time to move on. It's time to change. Maybe shed his winter coat for a lighter, less terrifying, maybe summer coat. His higher self is urging him to be more intellectual, to not follow his beastly ways anymore. The swords represent air and intelligence, so there's this big push to achieve more, to grow into a higher state of awareness. And so it could be that the Minotaur is literally on a spiritual journey to expand his awareness. Why is he here? Who is he really inside? And not so much fight with himself anymore, because he has a beast and a man in the same body. Put the beast away, it's time for the man to step forward. The subconscious or shadow self, the ego, is the Nine of Chalices. So the ego is all about the pleasure right here. They're saying that this is really focused on enjoyment. Yeah, who cares about spirituality? Let's just party. Like, let's go have a couple brewskis. You know, that's the part he is the warring against. That bestial, if it feels good, do it. The animal side, there's a place in all of us for intellect and emotion, but this one is really emphasizing the King of Swords as his higher self. It's time to grow beyond that. We can still enjoy it, but it's time to move forward. And the Nine of Cups as his shadow, his lower self, his egoic self, really focusing on that pleasure versus responsibility principle. So we have that energy that's coming forward there. His immediate past. The story was originally sometime in the BC area, so 2,000 years or so, give or take. The dates were wonky on that too. In his past was a lot of death. Morte, number 13. So his past is filled with death, despair, a lot of sadness is built up there. That ties into his lower self, which is, well, the death's over, let's have fun, let's party, and it's time to put that away. You learned your lessons, time to grow forward. And his future, immediate future, is the Fool. He's like a young puppy. He wants to go so bad forward. He wants to grow, build, improve, but as in typical Fool's fashion, the snake is biting his heel, so there's a stumbling block in the way. It could be this lower self energy of chasing your passions, chasing physical pleasure, I should say, not passions. Or it could be just his history. He's got a really rough history. The Minotaur's history is full of death, violence, blood, and gore, and that could be what's tripping up our young Fool on his movement forward. But he is wanting to start a new path, and that's what's coming up for the future. His current attitude is the Eight of Pentacles. Someone's got a little bit of an ego. Not bad, but he's definitely looking down on those around him. I am so much better because, well, I'm a half bull, half man, and you can think about that how you want. But he's also bigger, powerful. But it's looking down, and it's not always with pleasure. There's some wealth involved. He was the son of a king, so I mean, there's some serious money there. And if still alive, like if we're going with the immortality legend, because it was divine event lineage, very well could still be alive if we go by that. And he'd be the only son of a king, so there's still some some money attached. But it's kind of an arrogance in the way of the household, the everyday world, possibly business prosperity. The Minotaur was said to be bestial but not stupid. So his passions ruled him, but he was still intellectual. And that's what this is coming up for is, yeah, even though I, partied up really hard, I'm still intelligent and I can still do things. The environment that he's in right now is a changing one. It's time to look at things from a different perspective because the Hanged Man will not let you look at it from the old style any longer. It's time to change your viewpoint, change how you respond to life. His environment is in a constant state of flux. It's really because he's starting his immediate future is the Fool. He's starting something new, but to do that you have to you have to throw away the past, and that's what the Hanged Man is doing. To throw away the past, look at the situation from another angle. What is really happening? What can you change? What can you do about it? His hopes and fears is the Eight of Chalices. Will anyone really like me for who I am? Am I good enough? Am I going to be good enough? Is my tail or my horns something that people can overcome? But he hopes for a positive future. I mean, when you look into her face, not the reflection, she has a little bit of hope. There's some fear there, like, oh, I don't want to step out. I don't want to make myself known. But there's the hope of, but if I do, I might meet some friends. They might actually not be terrified of me. They might be accepting. Except for the whole eating humans part. I don't think that'll fly so well. But there is that dynamic of fear of stepping out, but also the hope that when he does, things will improve. So the overall outcome of this reading, of course, that's in a weird spot. I have to edit these cards. I love them, but there are things that YouTubes would not be happy about. We have the One of Pentacles, so we're starting a new life. We're starting a new existence. A new foundation is being laid. Earth in the Pentacles is really about establishing the next step. So the Fool starting something new is his immediate future, but the overall outcome is the groundwork has been laid. Now what are you going to do with it? How are you going to start building this next aspect of your life, little Minotaur man? And how are you going to allow that growth and knowledge that you have learned over the years impact your future life, basically? So, with that, these are done for fun, obviously, but it's also to let you know that I do read tarot. If you are interested in a personal reading, you can. The details on how to find that are linked in the description with my website, mysticjenmara.com. If you are enjoying these types of videos, please drop or hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and comment below letting me know if it's something you enjoyed. If you didn't enjoy it, what didn't you like about it? What can I do better other than figuring out my internet problems before I go live? Which I have been getting better at. I had a really weird work day today, and it reflected in my internet, because whenever my energy is not where it needs to be when I sit down to stream, my internet's like, haha, watch this. So like, comment, subscribe. Like I said, just let me know what you think in the comments, and if you have any creatures that you're interested in seeing in a future video, let me know, because this is what I do the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. The first third are dedicated to going over historical figures, so you can swing by and check those out too. With that, I will let you guys go. Have a great rest of your evening, and I will see you in a future video.